All right, Mort. So let's move on to the second game from Saturday. Clippers and Mavericks. And man, oh man, have the Clippers storylines already started. Luka was phenomenal. 31 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds. Playoff P came back in the first half, was not great. I think it was 1 of 7 from the field in the first, but then came back in the second, finished with 23 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Kawhi was his usual good self, 26 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, but the Mavericks take home court advantage with a 113-103 victory. So, what did you think about the Clippers' defense on Luka in particular?
I honestly, I think they're getting a bum rap on Twitter right now. It's the whole narrative about the Clippers failing again, yada, yada, yada. I think they tried to do the best that they could. I think they threw mostly the right guys at him. Paul George saw minutes on him. Kawhi saw minutes on him. Marcus Morris saw minutes on him. Nicholas Batum saw minutes on him. And those are the 4 players that I think primarily you need to put on Luka. But let's also realize something. Just because you have certain guys on the floor, that doesn't mean that you can put whoever you want on him, because you then Luka will call for a screen, and he will call for a screen for whoever has the weakest defender on him, who'll come up, set the screen. The Clippers will switch. Usually that means Zubac taking over Luka, and Luka will be cookies. That's I got that.
Yeah, and that's what happened early on, especially. Luka got cooking against Zubac in particular, and I think after the game, I think someone asked Ty Lue about that. Like, why didn't you put Kawhi on Luka more? And he said that regardless, Luka is just going to force a switch to get a weaker defender on him.
Exactly. Which is the point of the game. So this is what I would like to see going into game 2. I want to see Marcus Morris play center, because here's the thing. You're not too concerned about Kristaps either way.
Right.
Like, he's on the perimeter anyway. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not going to go in there and get 15 to 20 post touches per game. Like, that's not going to happen. That's not his game. Start Marcus Morris at center. Play Kawhi at the 4, Paul George at the 3, Batum at the 2, and then I guess Pat Bev at the 1. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I don't love Pat Bev on Luka, but I'll take it if that's the worst I can get. Like,
right.
Yeah, you're switching onto him for 5 guys who can do damage.
Yeah. I'm looking at, this is the matchup data from NBA.com, so take it with a grain of salt. But Luka, I mean, they threw a number of different guys spent time on Luka. Batum had the most. Beverly, George, Kawhi, Zubac, even Rondo. Against Zubac, Luka shot 6 of 9 from the field.
Yeah.
So then against everyone else, let me do some quick math here. That's 5 of 15, I believe. So other than him forcing that switch, they actually did do pretty well. And he was 3 of 6 from 3 against Zubac as well. So I think they need to. I mean, we said this going into the series was, you have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. One of those guys should probably be on Luka for most of the time. As much as you can avoid having him force a switch onto a weaker defender, like, I hear you on starting Morris, but I would really try, if I have 2 lockdown wing defenders, I would really try to make sure one of those guys was on Luka the whole time. They changed things up in the second half. They started throwing doubles at him, or trying to trap him, and then, he's such a good passer that's where Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dorian Finney-Smith especially started knocking down some big shots as well. So
I have something about that. So I'm part of a couple DM groups on Twitter, mostly with Europeans, also one with just Danes, and we're laughing a little bit when we saw that, because people who really paid attention to Luka when he played in Spain fully understand just how adept he is at handling double teams. And for some reason, despite this being his 3rd year in the NBA, it still seems as though teams really haven't recognized just how amazing he is at reading the floor. You're doing yourself a disservice if you're double teaming Luka Doncic. You shouldn't, because that is just going to end up badly. He will find the open player just because of the poise that he has, the calm that he has. I'm not going to mention his name, but one guy in that group was like, after it happened a couple times, was like, man, these teams really don't know how to guard a Euro, do they? Because, I mean, it's something that gets drilled into European basketball in particular, is just how to handle double teams at a very, very early age. It's something that American basketball players actually only get to when they're probably in high school or at a later point. Double teams isn't really a major focus in player development, but it is over here. So whenever you have a guy like Luka and you decide, oh, let's throw an extra defender on him, you are essentially making him smile and go, thank you. You're playing right into his hand. Right. Don't double team Luka.
We'll get to it in a little bit, but it's the complete opposite of what the Blazers did against Jokic. Like, if you play the pass and force him to score, he might go. I mean, he had 31 points. He was pretty efficient, so I can understand.
34.
Well, Doncic, I mean.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Doncic had 31. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
But like, I can understand the reluctance, especially toward the end of the first half. Like, he was really heating up, and it felt like, okay, this guy could snowball and get 50 if we keep up this defensive tactic. But at the same time, getting his teammates involved, like if he's both scoring at a high rate and getting his teammates involved and hitting them for open threes in particular, that's where it starts to really snowball. So I agree with you that, again, you have two elite wing defenders in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Trust those guys to do that job and keep it one-on-one as much as you possibly can. And if Luka goes off as a scorer, that's one thing, but at least you're not leaving wide open guys to knock down with probably going to be mostly corner threes.
Question. You know how everything has turned into switching nowadays?
Yes.
Would it be better for the Clippers to actually not switch on Luka pick and rolls and just have Paul George and Kawhi, for example, those two primarily, because they are better defenders than Batum and Marcus Morris, just try to fight over the screen or go under?
Yeah, I mean, Luka improved as a three-point shooter this year relative to his first 2 years, but I wouldn't want to necessarily go under all the time. He is not Ben Simmons in that regard, but you could try it, and if he's feeling it from deep, then you could start to go over. But yes, I agree with you. Like, I would really, really, really do everything in my power to make sure we're not getting like Nicholas Batum to be the one who spent the most time on Luka, which is what happened in game one.
Exactly.
Or Pat Bev, who I love Pat Bev, but he's not Paul George. He's not Kawhi Leonard. He doesn't have the size to contest Luka like those two guys can. And right. I mean, that's the ball game for the Clippers. If you stop Luka, you're winning the series. If you don't, you're going home early and you're facing a ton of questions about your future.
One final note about Luka before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that, you and I had him as our MVP going into this year.
Yeah.
I am beginning to think that Luka might be one of those guys who at most wins one MVP because, and that sounds sacrilegious and Dallas fans are going to be on my ass for just saying that, but listen to my reasoning first and foremost. He is not someone who cares about the regular season. He is already the type of guy who is a playoff performer and who plays for the playoffs. Mm-hmm. This guy is 22 years old, and what took LeBron 10 years to get through that whole screw the regular season mindset.
Yeah,
he has that already. Like, he does not care about the regular season whatsoever. Like, you can sense here in the playoffs, it becomes way more fun to him. He is so much more, locked in, engaged. I don't know what the wording is, but you can sense this playoff thing is just, oh, yeah, I like this. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I wouldn't be shocked if he's just, like, going to have, of course he's still going to produce in the regular season, but I don't think necessarily that he's going to go out of his way, to exert all of his energy in that part of the year. I think this is going to be where we know Luka the best. I think it's going to be the playoffs where he shines the most.
Yeah, he's definitely a big game player and, really likes this spotlight. If you're the Clippers, Mort, you've lost home court advantage. You're down 1-0. I mean, I don't want to say that game 2 is a must-win game, but
and I'll say it.
Yeah, if you go down 2-0 and you're heading to Dallas for 2, things are not looking great. So how are you feeling if you're a Clippers fan? Do you think like, we're just going to trust that we're going to right the ship in game 2, or are you ready to hit the panic button?
No. No. The panic button should be untouched. I'm not there whatsoever. I think that would be an overdraw. That would be unnecessary and dramatic for no reason. I trust that they have two guys who on any given night can beat the very best in the league. And for them, I think it becomes a question of one thing, getting the defense right. Now they have, a full game of having to go back and looking at all their errors, like why switch with Luka, why double team him. Let's remove those aspects immediately. And then I kind of want Kawhi to get more involved. So he had 26, 10, and 5. That's obviously a great line. Kawhi is the type of guy who kind of sticks between, 15, 25, maybe 30 points. There isn't really a great area outside of those. Like, he doesn't really go below 15 points. He doesn't really go below, way above 30. Like, he's very much that, that mindset of we're a consistent production, which is great. That's admirable. But the guy's career high in both the regular season and the playoffs is 45. I want Kawhi to come in at a little bit more aggressive offensively and like go for 35, 40 points. Like, chase that, because he is so efficient at both around the basket as a shooter. He's someone who can consistently create his own offense, not necessarily off the dribble all the time, although he's gotten way better at that, but just by cutting, reading patterns and all that. He's still on some level a little bit of a reluctant scorer, where when you look at his body type, when you look at his skill set, I mean, who in the hell do Dallas have that can slow him down? Their best perimeter defender right now, it's probably Josh Richardson or Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah, I was going to say Finney-Smith probably.
Yeah, those two, like, right? But, I mean, Kawhi would own both of those guys. Like, if he's aggressive from the start, and if he, like, puts it into himself, like, you know what, I am going for 40 tonight. I am going for a 20-point quarter at some point. Just for Kawhi, it's about shot volume. I want him to take more shots. I want him to be more aggressive. And I also think that would help Paul George, because when Paul is like trying to take over the game, which, God, he really tried to do that at times in game 1. I think him having the ability to play off of Kawhi would be so much better. Could you imagine the Mavs throwing a double at Kawhi and him hitting a wide open PG on the perimeter? Like, those are the shots that could get him going. So I want to see Kawhi just be way more aggressive in game 2. Go for 40. Go for 50. I don't care. Just be more aggressive.
Yeah, I don't want to say it felt like load management Kawhi, because he played a ton of minutes, but it didn't feel like he was in game 7 of the finals or anything. Like he's. Well,
he weren't. He were in game 1 of a first round matchup.
Right. I think he was feeling his way out, and now that he's seen. I mean, they saw him last year too, but now that he's seen what he's up against, I expect a much better performance out of really both guys. I mean, it's great that Paul George found his footing in the second half. That should give him confidence moving forward, and the Clippers confidence moving forward. But my hand is like hovering over the panic button. I'm not hitting it yet, but if they lose game 2, I am slamming it.
Oh, yeah. If they hit game 2, then we can talk about the panic button. But right now, I mean, look, I think we never really gave the Clippers enough credit during the regular season. So for us to panic just for a game 1 loss, that to me is just being extremely disrespectful to what they did over the course of the season. But if they fail to win game 2, then we can at least broach the subject and we can talk about it. Yeah. It
is worth noting how many teams, home teams often lose game 1 and then go on to like sweep the rest of the series. So for any team that lost game 1, it's too early to panic. Any home team that lost game 1 is too early to panic.
Right.